session in room 4 for oral presentation. Right, so for this session, we will have 5 presenters. May I confirm whether all of our presenters are already in the room today? So, Ika Purwidianingrum, Ifmaili.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Ifmaili, um, she's not here yet. Yulianis, it's not here yet. Aulia Fikri Hidayat. Mr. Aulia Fikri Hidayat. Oh yeah, his name is here. Maybe we can confirm later. And Irma Rahmawati.
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you very much. So for now, we will just start the presentation from the first presenter, Ika Purwidianingrum, with the title of The Influence of Green Chinchou Leaf Ethanol Extract as Diuretic Agent. So for this presentation, you have 10 minutes to present and 5 minutes for question and answer. For the audience that for those who want to have question, you can write in the chat room. So we'll deliver your question after the session. So Miss Ika, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Rina. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce our research that we have done before. Me, Ika Purwidianingrum, and Jason Merari Parangenangin proudly present the influence of green chinchou leaf, Cyclea barbatamyrs ethanol extract as a diuretic. As the background of this study, we think that hypertension is one of the cardiovascular disease, which happen to many people, usually as they grow older. In 2018, our Department of Health explained that the percentage of hypertension in Indonesia is quite large. It's about 34.1%, and our Department of Health also explained that the percentage of hypertension on women is quite larger than a man. It is proven that 36.9% hypertension happen on women and 31.3% on men. Diuretics. Diuretics are a drug that can increase the effect of diuresis. The term diuresis that has two meanings. The first indicate an increase in the volume of urine produced, and the second indicate the amount of excretion dissolved substance in water. The main function of diuretics is to mobilize the edema fluid, which means changing the fluid balance in such a way that the volume of cell extract fluid return to normal. Previous research, Petrus 2080, entitled The Antihypertensive Activity of the Ethanol Extract of Cyclea barbatamyrs, showed that the effective dose as a reduction in blood pressure was a dose of 24 milligrams on 200 gram body weight on rats. And the ethanol extract of Cyclea barbatamyrs leaf contains are flavonoid, alkaloids, tannin, and saponin, which have antihypertensive activity. Cyclea barbatamyrs chemical contents are flavonoid, alkaloids, saponin, and tannin, and the pharmacological activities are antihypertension, antioxidant, oxidative, treat abdominal pain, and Weber. The objective of this study, first, to find out the ethanol extract of Cyclea barbatamyrs has a diuretic effect on male wet rat Wistar strain. Second, to determine the effective dose of Cyclea barbatamyrs as a diuretic in male wet rat Wistar strain. Third, to determine the effective dose of Cyclea barbatamyrs which has the effect of increasing level of sodium and potassium the urine on of male white rats. The course of research first the determination, and then taking material or samples, drying and powder making, determination of drying shrinkage, maceration method in 96% ethanol, chemical content identification, treatment and determination of test animals, diuretic activity test, measurement of sodium and potassium level by atomic absorption spectrophotometry, and result analysis. Diuretic test procedures are 25 rats were divided in 5 groups, each group consisting of 5 rats, acclimate for 7 days. First group are CMC, second group are furosemide, third group are Cyclea barbatamyls extract of 60 milligram on kilogram body weight, and the fourth group are Cyclea barbatamyls extract on 120 milligram on kilogram body weight, and fifth group are Cyclea barbatamyls on a dose of 180 milligram on kilogram body weight. Food but not water was withdrawn for 15 hours, and the loading dose are sodium chloride 0.9% on 2 milliliter of on 200 gram body weight of rat, which is give to first group, second group, third group, fourth group, and fifth group. The test animal were given treatment according to the respective group by oral. The test animal were placed in a metabolic cage. Storage and measurement of urine volume were carried out in its rats on first hour, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and 24 hours, and statistic analysis. The measuring of sodium and potassium procedure are preparation of standard sodium solution with concentration of 0.1 part per million, 0.2, 0.5, 0.6, 0.8135 part per million, and for potassium with concentration of 0.5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, and 20 part per million. Deviation in the 24-hour urine from each rat is in each treatment group. And then dilation of the deviation result per urine sample as much as 5,000 times. Measurement of natrium and measurement of sodium and potassium level in the sample using the atomic absorption spectrophotometry, calculate the amount of sodium and potassium in the urine, and statistic analysis. And the result and description, the percentage result of powder to wet weight of Cyclea barbatamyls leaves are 24%. And the result of the percentage moisture level of Cyclea barbatamyls leaf powder are was 8.03 grams percent, which is determined of moisture level should not be more than 10%. So it can be concluded that the moisture level of Cyclea barbatamyls leaves meet the requirements, which is less than 10%. The percentage of Cyclea barbatamyls level powder in the ethanol extract of Cyclea barbatamyls leaves are 6.2%. And the identification of the chemical contents of Cyclea barbatamyls leaf extract, flavonoid positive, alkaloid positive, saponin positive, tannin positive. This is the mean urine volume an hour on 5 group, and this is the percentage of EUV or excretion urine volume on 5 group. And based on the statistical analysis, the extract group that had a diuretic ability that was compared to the positive control furosemide was Cyclea barbatamyls leaf extract at the dose of 240 milligram per on kilogram body weight rats, which were seen at the EUV percentage on 6 hours. But by calculating the EUV of Cyclea barbatamris leaf extract group dose 1 and dose 2 already have a high percent theoretic, although not comparable to positive control furosemide. This is the average of urine sodium level groups on 5 group, and then this is the mean of potassium urine level on 5 group. Based on the result of research with parameter on the amount of sodium and potassium in the red urine, it can be concluded that the effective dose to reduce sodium and potassium level is on dose of 250 milligram on kilogram body weight, which means that the higher the dose, it can increase the excretion of sodium and potassium in the urine, so that can reduce the amount of potassium and sodium in the body. So the conclusion in this research are: first, Cyclea barbatamris leaf extract has a diuretic activity. Second, the effective dose has a diuretic effect as our Cyclea barbatamris level leaf extract is 240 milligram on kilogram body weight. Third, the effective dose of Cyclea barbatamris leaf extract has the effect of increasing the level of sodium and potassium in the urine of male white rat was doses 240 milligram on kilogram body weight. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ika. So now we come to the question and answer session. Does anyone have question? You can write it in the chat room if you're not comfortable talking. So while waiting for the participant maybe to think about the question, so I will ask you some about, I'm wondering whether, so this is you are using rat as the sample, right? So it means the in vivo experiment.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm wondering whether you have done some kind of in vitro experiments before, or before proceeding to this in vivo.
On the on the in vivo, but other pharmacological that I have done for antihypertensive activity.
I mean, like for in vitro experiment, before you're doing this in vivo, have you done some kind of in vitro experiment?
Not yet.
So how do you know that this extract will be effective in vivo if there is no prior research about this? I mean, like in the lab scale.
First, I have done I have done for antihypertensive activity in the in vivo method, which is there as a antihypertensive activity. There are a connection between antihypertensive and diuretics. The first drug choice for hypertension is diuretic. So I'll more advance this extract to understand that there are any pharmacological effect other antihypertensive. Then I have a conclusion that the dose of 240 milligram on kilogram body weight, it is effective to the diuretic activity.
So actually, there are other research that have done it before.
Exactly.
All right. So, what is the future plan after this? You already know how effective it is now, right? Yes. So, what is your future plan after finding out this result?
Okay. For the future plan, I will explore to the other activity, which is connection to the cardiovascular disease. Maybe I will have some research to the during on the diuretic effect, but the other parameter such as to understand the which is the natriuretic activity, and then another on another on antihypertension, like maybe we'll get the mechanism of antihypertension, like ACE or ARB, maybe like that. So I will explore to the mechanism of the cardiovascular disease.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting because nowadays, the cardiovascular is like such a hot topics always.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any question from the audience? I didn't see any question in the chat room, so thank you, Miss Eka, for this presentation.
Yes.
We cannot give applause here, right? So,
okay, no problem.
Okay, then I will move to the next presenter, Miss Ismaili. I don't think she's here yet. Okay, Mr. Julianis. No, Mr. Aulia Fikri Hidayat. Are you ready?
Yeah, inshallah, I'm ready.
All right. So since the other presenter are not here yet, so you can proceed first. So the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes to present, and we will have 5 minutes for question and answer. And the audience can write the question in the chat room when you have any question.
Okay.
All right. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, is my screen on the presentation view right now? Okay, right. Thank you for the
opportunity. Can you make it the presentation mode or slideshow?
I'm sorry?
Can you make it slideshow?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Right, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to present our research. I will introduce myself first. My name is Aulia Fikri Hidayat. Me and my team are from Department of Pharmacy, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Universitas Islam Bandung. Today, I would like to present to you about our research, which titled Preparation of Moisturizing Lotion Containing Silkworm Sericin Nanoparticles. In this context, or in our research, the silkworm we were used is from the Bombyx mori species. Okay. Firstly, I want to give some overview about our research. In our research, we use sericin as the main material. So, from several literatures, we know that sericin actually have a quite important and interesting potential, such as they have the ability to increase skin moisture and elasticity, and then they could also prevent wrinkles and premature aging, and they could also reduce transepidermal water loss value. And sericin were mostly found in silkworm cocoon, in the silk thread from the silkworm itself. Structurally speaking, sericin, or the silk from the silkworm, actually contains two main proteins, which are sericin itself and fibroin. And from the perspective of the structure, fibroin lies on the center of the structure, while the sericin coat them or surrounded them in the outer layer. So in the case of the structure in silk thread, the sericin functions as a gum coating, so that the fibroin could attract to each other or could hold to each other. And however, while the potential of sericin is quite interesting and we would say pretty sophisticated, Application of sericin, mainly in cosmetics, were still limited due to several reasons. One of which are due to instability in water and also its difficulty to dissolve in organic solvents. So to overcome this limitation, we would provide a method, you would say, to structurally modify the sericin itself in the form of nanotreatment. Here, nanotreatment with the quotation mark. Yeah. So nanotreatment in the context were followed by the structure modification. So not only we would decrease the particle size, but we would also structurally modify the sericin. And by the structural modification in this context, we have several alternatives actually. We could do the PE-chelation and cross-linking. In the PE-chelation, of course, we use PEG as the linker or as the modifier, and in the cross-linking process or in the cross-linking mechanism, we would use cross-link agent, or some could always say cross-linker. So cross-link agent or cross-linker. And in the context of our research, urea is the cross-link agent that we were used. So to summarize the introduction, to maximize the potential of sericin, we have already known that the sericin have quite interesting potential, and they have some limitation, and we provide some alternative to overcome those limitations. So to maximize the potential and to overcome the limitation of sericin, we would apply the sericin nanoparticles in moisturizing lotion, which is expected to be a good option in order to maximize the potential of sericin itself. Okay, and then we move along in methods section. There are several methods that were used in our experiment, and not all are shown here actually. This is the abridged version, I would say. So firstly, we would extract the sericin, or the sericin was extracted using 0.05% sodium bicarbonate as a solvent in demineralized water at 105 degrees Celsius. So after the water is boiling, we would extract the sericin for 30 minutes, and then the extract was then dialyzed for 48 hours to eliminate the remaining solvent. And the next step, we would prepare the sericin nanoparticles by adding 48 grams of urea to 100 milliliters of sericin extract. So we would get the mixture solution, and then the mixture was then homogenized at 800 RPM using high-shear homogenization at room temperature in varied duration of 30, 60, and 90 minutes. And after that, after we obtain the sericin nanoparticles, we would formulate the lotion. The lotion itself will consist of the lotion base and the sericin nanoparticles as the active ingredients. So the lotion base were formulated with mixture of water and oil phases. The water phase consists of sodium lauryl sulfate, methylparaben, TEN aqueous, and the oil phase consists of cetyl alcohol, stearic acid, liquid paraffin, and propyl paraben. Both phases were then homogenized at 3000 RPM for 15 minutes. Firstly, we would optimize the base itself, so we get the optimum base, which we call them F1. And two final formula, we call them F1A and F1B, were then prepared, containing 5% and 10% of sericin nanoparticles, respectively. And then, lastly, we would characterize and do evaluation. It consists of several parts. Towards the sericin nanoparticles, we would measure the average particle size using particle size analyzer. And then towards the sericin nanoparticle lotion, so that is the lotion that were already contain the nanoparticles, we would perform stability evaluation using centrifuge and freeze-thaw method. And lastly,
2 minutes left.
Okay, sorry. And then effectiveness evaluation were carried out using skin analyzer towards 6 panelists. Okay, and then this is the results of our experiment. From the PSA result, or the particle size analyzer result, we obtained the average particle size, which still quite big actually, from the 700 until slightly more than a micron. And from the organoleptic evaluation, we obtained the product of the lotion were quite consistent from F1A and F1B, which only slightly different in the viscosity value. And lastly, in the percentage of change in skin moisture, we would apply them towards 4 group: control group, base group, F1A, and F1B, which from the table itself, we could see that in the control group, there is decrease in the change in skin moisture over time. And in the base, the skin moisture would increase slightly. And when we applied the sericin nanoparticles, it is shown that the increase slight or a little bit significantly better actually. So we can conclude that from the experiment or from our research that the sericin nanoparticles that were considered optimum or optimal is the size of 701 nanometers, which obtained with a homogenization speed of 800 RPM for 30 minutes. And then the lotion contains 5% and 10% sericin nanoparticles, have shown the ability to increase skin moisture quite significantly. Okay, I think that is all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Aulia. So is there any question from the audience? I don't see any question either. So I will just, I want to ask just simple question. So you are synthesizing your own nanoparticle, or you buy the ready nanoparticle and you link it with your sericin?
In this case, the nanoparticles is the sericin itself. So we extracted the sericin from the start.
So you synthesize it?
Yeah, we synthesize it.
Is there any reason that, because we know that there are also like gold nanoparticle, silver nanoparticle, which has a smaller size. Do you have any reason that why you choose these nanoparticles? Or have you considered to use the gold or silver nanoparticles?
Yeah, gold nanoparticles or silver nanoparticles also quite interesting. But in our case, we would like to try something new, that is, which applying the biomaterials. In this case, is sericin itself to synthesize the nanoparticles. So it is actually the use of biomaterials that are being the objective of our research in this case.
Okay. So we have one question here from the audience, from Miss Melinda. She asks what distinguishes sericin lotion and sericin nanoparticles. Okay.
From the perspective of the particle size itself, sericin actually have a quite big in size. So the nano treatment or the use of nanotechnology in the case of sericin synthesis, we would hope or we would expect it that the smaller size in the sericin nanoparticles could help increase the solubility in, I would say, in water or in the solvent, and then we would expected that the nanoparticles could also penetrate more freely in the smaller size.
Okay, so it's you're saying that it expected that it will penetrate easier to the skin compared to the normal one.
Yeah, we would expect that to happen if we decrease the size of its particle.
Yeah, because nano medicine now is on the rise, so people want to utilize the nanoparticle for everything because it makes like for delivery, drugs delivery, everything. Yeah, that's like, interesting.
It's everywhere, I think.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Okay, so we don't have any more questions, and because of the time limitation as well. So thank you very much for your interesting presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Rina.
So thank you. So if we move to the next presenter, since we already have Ms. Ifmaili here. So the next presenter will be Ms. Ifmaili. Will you confirm whether you present, Ms. Ifmaili? Maybe we move to Ms. Irma Rahmawati first. Okay, so the next presenter will be Ms. Irma Rahmawati with the title of Determination of Chlorine on Brewed Robusta Coffee with V60 method. So you have 10 minutes to present, and we will have 5 minutes for question and answer. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Rina.
Mrs. Rina?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mrs. Rina, present the last number, okay?
Can you please, would you mind if you present after Miss Irma?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Irma Rahmawati. I am from Akademi Farmasi Bumi Siliwangi, Bandung. In this opportunity, I would like to present my team research on the determination of chlorine on brewed Robusta coffee with V60 method. First, I will explain to you about background of this paper. Coffee is a beverage that is very popular throughout the world and the third most commonly consumed after water and tea. Coffee contains more than 1,000 of natural chemicals which are healthy. Several benefits in consuming coffee have been widely studied, including as an antimicrobial, preventing several chronic and degenerative diseases such as cancer, cardiovascular disorders, diabetes, and Parkinson's disease. However, along with the increasing consumptive nature, drinking coffee has become lifestyle. The creative coffee shop industry is growing and developing so rapidly. It is here to provide choice on how to enjoy coffee through good brewing with new methods. V60 method is the use of a filter paper, which is suspected to contain chlorine as a paper bleaching agent, which will dissolve in coffee that has been brewed. Chlorine is very important to be used as a bleach in paper and clothing factories because it is disinfecting. Large amount of chlorine are very dangerous. The chlorine limit requirement for drinking water according to World Health Organization concerning the requirement for drinking water quality is below 5 milligram per liter. A health problem that can cause by consuming chlorine-contained drink is the long-term and can cause lung diseases such as pneumonia, shortness of breath, emphysema, and bronchitis. Furthermore, can be caused directly disease related to liver, bladder, intestinal cancer, arteriosclerosis, high blood pressure, bronchitis, dyspnea, and allergies. And the aim of this research is to determine the chlorine content in brewed Robusta coffee with the V60 brew method. And next, methodology in this research for materials. The tools used in this study include Hario V60 ceramic coffee dripper from Hario, and materials used include filter paper, A, B, and C, and Robusta coffee powder from a local supplier in Indonesia. In this research, chlorine was examined using the color reaction methods using iodine test and a precipitation test as a qualitative analysis. And for quantitative analysis, to determine the chlorine content is using argentometric titration with Moore method. Analysis of variance was performed by using one-way ANOVA. And for a result and discussion, based on the result in table 1 on the left, there was iodine test and precipitation test on the color reaction test. All of sample, FP for filter paper samples and BC for a brew coffee, turn purplish blue, indicate there is chlorine on a filter paper and brewed coffee. The purplish blue color is produced due to formation of 3 iodide ions. In the precipitation test, there were white precipitates on each filter paper and a brewed coffee of brand A, B, and C, which was tested by the addition of nitric acid and silver nitrate solution. Silver nitrate will precipitate chloride iron as silver chloride. This called a precipitation reaction. Based on result in table 1, the result of titration show that chlorine level is in all samples, filter paper and brewed coffee, brand A, B, C is all unqualified for healthy drinking water, or the content is very high, above 5 per liters. Furthermore, based on the result in figure 1 on the right, the result with P less than 0.05 were regarded to be statistically significant difference. The highest chlorine content is filter paper A, FPA, which is 81.9 milligram per liter. This affect the amount of chlorine content in brewed coffee, which is 44.6 milligram per liter. Furthermore, the smallest chlorine content in filter paper B or FPB, which is 49.9 milligram per liter, and 21.9 milligram per liter for brewed coffee B or BCB. The results show that the higher the chlorine concentration on the filter paper, the greater chlorine dissolved in brew coffee. And finally, the conclusion of this research is that the chlorine content contained in filter paper and in V60 coffee brewing beverage on brand A, brand B, and brand C is unqualified according to World Health Organization regulation about chlorine qualification for clean drinking water, which is 5 milligram per liters. Thank you very much for your great attention. You can freely ask questions about this presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So thank you, Miss Irma. We have one question here from the audience. So Miss Melinda is asking about what kind of coffee that you use as sample, and why you choose that coffee, and what made you interested in reading about that coffee.
Okay, a sample we use in this research is Robusta coffee because in this Robusta coffee because now coffee is very popular among the young people and throughout the world, and coffee have more benefits which healthy, such as antimicrobial and preventing several chronic and degenerative diseases. So we choose coffee Robusta to test about chlorine content in this beverage.
Oh, so maybe it widely drink in Indonesia as well. Is that what you mean? Why you choose the
exactly.
Robusta coffee?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So we don't have any more questions. What do you suggest to the audience to avoid the filter paper so that we won't have the chlorine content?
Okay. Furthermore, people need to replace an alternative filter paper containing bleach by using filter paper that doesn't not use bleach, such as cloth or brown filter paper.
So how do can we recognize it by like when we go to supermarket, for example? How can we identify which one is the correct one to choose?
Filter paper that chlorinate, it's a white color, white, that's from a bleaching process. But unbleaching filter paper unbleaching is a color brown.
Okay, so do you have any idea basically why they bleach the filter paper? Why meanwhile they can just use the unbleached one directly? So why did they bleach it? Do you have any idea?
It's for whitening to produce whitening color of paper.
So it's just to make it look more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that's quite interesting actually, because all of us, I'm sure all of us are drinking coffee every day. So it's quite interesting. Right, so thank you very much, Ms. Irma, for the interesting presentation. Due to time limitation, so we need to move to the next presenter. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you again. The next presenter is Mrs. Ismaili with the title of Effectiveness Test of Onion Tuber Extract on Healing of Burns on White Millets. So, Mrs. Ismaili, you have 10 minutes to present, and we have 5 minutes for question and answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Rina. I can present my article. Just a moment. I share my article. Mana put? Ada put.
Yeah, we can see your presentation.
You can see my slide.
Yeah, right? We can see the slide.
Yeah. My name, ladies and gentlemen, good day. My name's Ismaili, Miss Ismaili from Pharmacy Faculty of Perintis University in Padang. I will present my research. The title Effectiveness test of O9 tuber or allium cephaloline extract against healing of burn on white millet. Introduction. Burn. We know burn wound on the skin of other tissue caused by heat or exposure to radiation, radioactive electricity, touch, or direct contact with chemical. According to the World Health Organization, estimate that there are 300,000 deaths that occur annually worldwide due to burn. According to Indonesia Ministry of Health, in 2030, the prevalence of burn in Indonesia was 0.7. The highest prevalence was in Papua, 2.0%, and Bangka Belitung, 1.4%, while the prevalence in East Java was 0.7%. Allium cepa is a traditional plant that has many health benefits and is a medicinal plant that has potential as an anti-inflammatory, which is used to heartburn, and also antioxidant, antimicrobial. So I want to research. I research about the effectiveness test of O9 tuber extract against healing of burn on wet millet. Core problem. The first, does O9 tuber extract can affect burn healing? The second, does the variation of O9 tuber extract concentration have an effect of burn healing? With the parameters, the first parameters, persistence of burn healing. The second parameters, epithelialization time, and the third parameters, histopathology. This is purposes of research and benefits of research. You can see my slide. Procedure of research. This is pure experimental. Location, the research, pharmacology and natural material chemistry laboratory in Pharmacy Faculty of Perintis University Padang, and pathology anatomy medical faculty Andalas University Padang. This sample O9 tuber got from Tanjung Bonai Aur, Sumatera Barat, West Sumatra. Identification of sample did in herbarium laboratory faculty FMIPA Andalas University Padang. This is scheme of making an evaluation from extract. We got the O9 tuber 3 kilogram. It's woolseed, copse, macerate with 96% ethanol. So the result, Grex and macerate. Macerate we concentrate with the rotary evaporator. The result is Ficus extract. The next, the evaluation of extract, and we can do the pharmacology test. This is the scheme of pharmacology test. There are 25 wet millet. It's divided 4 groups. The first group, negative control. We give ointment base group. The next group, 5% concentrate and O9 tuber extract. The next group, 10% concentration onion tuber extract. The fourth group, 20% concentration onion tuber extract. Then the last group, comparison drug, Mebo ointment. We separate, we give anesthesia, one with hot milk, 100 degrees Celsius. Next, given to topical treatment with extract, 2 times 1 a day for 40 days. The next, observe the percentage of burn healing, epithelialization time, and histopathology. The last, we did data analysis with one-way ANOVA. This is result of organoleptic observation of onion tuber extract, organoleptic observation. This is percentage of burn healing. The best healing is the burn healing the best 20% concentration extract. So, average of epithelialization time, negative control groups, 13.2 days, group 3, 20% concentration extract, 12.6 days. So this is result of histopathology and assessment of epithelialization surface. So you can see epithelial surface of the epidermis is give the symbol E, and granulation tissue in dermis is give symbol G after burn. This is burn healing process, initial burn in the left and the right, burn after forming new epithelium in the 14th day. Discussion in this study, each ointment show a different burn healing time, which means that each fase also took place at a different time. It was found that was one of the therapies that had the same effectiveness as Mebo ointment for healing burn in wet marrow. This is because of compound content in the onion tuber extract have the ability to accelerate tissue regeneration, epithelialization, stimulates fibroblasts and collagen formation in burn affected skin, and have an antimicrobial effect that will suppress microorganisms, which can slow down burn healing. Based on the result of statistical analysis with one ANOVA from the result obtained, it can be concluded that there are significant differences in its data between the negative control group, the concentration of 5%, 10%, 20%, and then comparison. Persons of burn healing with p-value 0.041, epithelialization time with a p-value 0.012, and histopathology of fibrocollagen with p-value 0.001. It means the onion tuber extract can heal the burn on well-marred skin. Conclusion, onion tuber extract has the effect of burn healing. Second, all concentration of onion tuber extract could affect the healing of burn on red skin, and the best was at 20% concentration. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ifmaili. Is there any question from the audience? Okay, let's wait for a while in case there is a question. I'm wondering, do you have any idea what kind of compound that is in the onion extract? I mean, did you do a study about like the the compounds that might be effective to have this kind of pharmacology effect?
I'm so sorry. I cannot hear your
Okay.
question.
So okay, I will repeat my question. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm wondering whether you know what kind of compound is exactly in the onion extract that has this kind of pharmacological effect for the burn healing. Do you have any idea the specific compound that might present in the onion itself?
Yeah. The previous research, the extract onion tuber extract can affect the antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and the NCC healing, NCC healing. Yeah. So I can execute two choice the reset in the online tuber can affect to burn healing.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what kind of compound that might be present? Because such as like flavonoid or any kind of compound.
Yeah, that's right. Online tuber extract is contain the flavonoid, saponin, tannin, alkaloid. Based on the previous research. So I can choose to the research about the effect of burn healing.
Okay, so in that case, in case there is another plant that contain the same compound, do you think that it's also possible for that plant to have the same effect on wound healing, or this onion have a specific compound that is not present in other plants? So that's why it's special for this kind of treatment.
Yeah, the onion give compound contain the compound about allicin, and flavonol. And this is in the flavonoid compound.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I also saw the interesting image in your presentation about the epithelialization. You have like a pink image in your slides.
Pardon me?
Yeah, in your slide you have the nice images of the healing process. The image that you have in your slides.
Yeah.
What do you take the image using some special instrument, or how do you obtain the imaging for that? It's really nice.
Yeah. I make I can use the cryostat
Okay.
cryostat cropping.
So there is a special instrument for the imaging.
Yeah, the special instrument is named the cryostat cropping.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you put the skin sample there or the rat itself under the instrument to get the picture?
The skin, the collagen tissue from breast, we copy, we mix with paraffin, so we crop with the cryostat cropper, so we intervention with the hematoxylin. Yeah. I forget. We give the. I'm so sorry. I forgot. We can see the tissue. It's especially about the fibrocollagen and fibroblasts with microscope digital.
All right, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so thank you very much, Mrs. Ismaili. There is no other question for the audience, I suppose. So we have another presenter actually, Mr. or Mrs. Julianis, but maybe he is not present today. So in that case, we come to the end of our session. And I would like to thank you very much for all the presenters and also the audience that present in this room. And don't forget, tomorrow we have still have the second day with our keynote speaker from the University of Sydney. So don't miss it. We will start at 8.
Sorry, excuse me, Miss.
Miss Julianis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, because you didn't write your name in the chat. Okay, so we still we have a complete presenter today, so it's good. So Miss Julianis will present with the title Analysis of Components of Lemon Orange Peels with Gas Chromatography. So you have 10 minutes to present and you have 5 minutes for question and answer. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
So you might want to share your screen.
Sorry, what see? Miss Rina?
Yes, we can see your slide, but maybe you want to make it a slideshow. It disappears. Yeah.
What she presenter me?
Yeah, all good now.
Yes.
Okay.
You can see.
Can she presenter me?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Rina. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julianis from Department of Pharmacy, High School of Health Science, Stikes Harapan Ibu Jambi. Chemical content analysis of lemon peel, local lemon peel, and lime peel extract by gas chromatography mass spectrometry. Lemon and lime are plant of the same genus, have a short taste but different fruit color. Lemon is bright yellow, while lime is green. While local lemon have pale yellow or greenish yellow. The identification result of local lemon is a cross between lemon and lime. Citrus peel is one of the main source of essential oil and phenolic compound, such as phenolic acid, flavonoid, limonoid, and fiber. The dried feel of the fruit is used in traditional medicine to treat abdominal distension, to enhance the digestion, and to reduce flying, snake bite, fever, loss of taste, chronic rheumatoid, etc. Essential oil and phenolic compound benefit as an antimicrobial, antiseptic, antivirus, anti-cancer, anti-tumor, anti-allergy, and anti-hypertension. This study aimed to determine two component of lemon peel, lemon local peel, and lime peel. Method peel lemon, local lemon, and lime often drying temperature of 50 Celsius. Next, Simplicia. Macerated extracted with acetone solvent. Next, liquid extract. Vaporized the acetone with rotary vacuum evaporator. Spisum extract 0.1 gram extract dissolved with acetone. Next, sample solution. Next, component test by GC-MS. Condition injector used is 2050 Celsius, column HP Ultra 2 with capillary column. Temperature 3000 to 25 Celsius. Mobile phase used helium at the flow of 1.2 milliliter per minute. Detector use mass spectrophotometer. The oven used gradual temperature regulation of 3 Celsius per minute to 2 Celsius resistant up to 1 minute. Then rise 1050 Celsius per minute to 2080 Celsius for maximal distance up to 26 minutes. Next to analysis. Result and discussion. Result compound 19 where maksimal itu pada compound 6 methoxychroman 2-on. The result, the analysis of one spill will show compound detect false formerly terpene as alpha-pinene, beta-pinene, and limonene. Will then be followed oxygenated hydrocarbon compound. Now, same result this the limonene also result. For lemon local peel extract, also 19 compound where maximal itu pada 4H benzotioviran dengan with compound ETC. Result analysis landfill component also 19 compound. Same component compound Lemonfield, local Lemonfield and lime itu this see the limonen like only Lemonfield. Nah, based on result that has been done, it can be conclude that the extra component acetone in the field of lemon, local lemon and lime have 4 compound common, namely 2-pentanone, 4-hydroxy, 4-methyl, beta-bisabolone, bis 2-ethylhexyl plalet, ETC, then 6 compound of the same compound between lemon local and lemon. The result of crossing of lemon and lime affect again to candidiase. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. James. That's okay. So, any question from the audience? Okay, it seems our audience is very short. And I'm wondering, after based on this result, what is your future plan for this? Do you plan to work more in details about lemon, or do you have any plan? The purpose of you of analyzing this compound. What is the follow-up of this experiment?
For research this was that Lemonfield, local Lemonfield and Limefield was that to be benefit for traditional medicine or essential oil research benefit for traditional medicine also.
Okay, so basically you, based on the benefit, you try to identify what kind of compounds it's in this 3 types of lemon, right? Is it correct?
Sorry.
Based on your result, so your purpose is to identify what kind of compound that in these 3 types of lemon, right? Because I saw in the title there are 3 types of lemon that you analyze. Or maybe
comment reviewer.
Or maybe you have
James.
Maybe you have a future plan how to use this lemon based on your results. That's what I mean.
I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear my voice?
Sorry, repeat. Also, sorry, little I can English.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I mean, like, do you have plan to apply this lemon for further experiments? For the application after this experiment?
Application.
Yeah. Yeah.
Application to lemon fill because wasted limbah sehingga make product medicine traditional medicine such as like Simplicia, maybe like jamu.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because sure, there's a lot of things that we can do with to apply this traditional medicine, right? So that's why do you have a plan to use it for some kind of application?
Application to like antioxidant product, maybe.
Okay, that's interesting.
Or insecticida.
Oh, okay.
Insecticida.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, if there's no other question from audience, thank you very much, Ms. Julianis. I'm sorry for that because I didn't see your name before.
Sorry, very much, Miss Rina. Okay, little English.
No problem. So thank you very much for all the presenter. And again, I would like to remind you that tomorrow we still have our second day with keynote speaker from University of Sydney. So don't forget to, we will start at 8:30 a.m. sharp Western Indonesian time. So that's all for today. Thank you for